Hello and welcome back to A Better World. This is your host, Mitchell J. Rabin, and I'm very glad you're joining us again today. Today we are going to have another very interesting show because we have with us Lama Surya. He's a beautiful being. We've had him on the TV show a few times, and this will be the first time we have him on the radio show. And it's in light of and in respect to his latest book of many, probably around a dozen altogether, called Buddha Standard Time. So this whole show is actually going to be in Buddha time, unlike many other just linear-based radio shows. Lama Surya is one of the foremost American Buddhist teachers and scholars, and is known affectionately to His Holiness the Dalai Lama as the American Lama. Very well put. Surya is the author of the best-selling books Awaken the Buddha Within and Buddha Is As Buddha Does, and he's also the founder and spiritual director of the Dzogchen Foundation and founder of the Western Buddhist Teachers Network. He teaches all over. He spent many years in India and traveling across Asia, much in a Tibetan Buddhist monastery, and he has ripened his soul there, and when he came back to the United States, where he originated, right here on Long Island, he was blooming with another level of being and consciousness that he's been generous enough to share with us all ever since. So, Surya, such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Mitchell.
God bless.
What a pleasure.
Exactly.
Here, it is a better world today, and every day that we awaken is a good day.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? It's funny because we're both also Jewish as well as Buddhist, and I had a wonderful Rabbi Gelberman on, who his last time he was on, he was 98 years old, right before he passed, actually, on Rosh Hashanah of just last year. And he said exactly that same thing you said. He said, every night when we go to sleep, we in effect die. And every morning, thank God, we reawaken and come back into life. But we really have that death, birth thing happening on a micro level.
Well, it's good to appreciate and enjoy and savor the moment. And, you know, as it says in a good book, hope rises in the morning. And we rise in the morning if we're lucky enough to. I think it's not a bad time to reflect a moment on gratitude and appreciation, reverence and cherishment, and not just take it for granted, not just rush into things, not feel resentful at what we have to do. Remember that we've chosen to do what we're planning to do, even if it's go to work. We're working for certain reasons, and to get something out of it and take responsibility for that. And enjoy that your good work today is a blessing. A lot of people don't have work, let's remember.
Yes, exactly. And that's a beautiful thing to say, sir, at this point in time, especially.
And we see what's going on downtown, and the young people protested in London. And, you know, it's a real problem today. And having good work, and even better, finding your true vocation is a very, very important part of life. And it's part of Buddha's Eightfold Path also, right? Livelihood, true vocation.
Yes. So and you talk about that in the book as well.
Yes, it's as important as meditating or loving kindness and compassion is finding a true vocation, making a life, not just a living. So that's called right livelihood in Buddhism. And but practically speaking, we all need to work or support ourselves and each other and our loved ones somehow, whether it's monetarily or in other ways, with mutual reciprocity, give and take. So just waking up in the morning is a beautiful thing. And in Tibetan Buddhism, we always sit up and we raise our arms or look up and go, ha! With a big out-breath. It's a good way to awaken, especially if you're feeling like sluggish or, you know, like, I can't function until I get my caffeine hit. Try sitting up and going, ha! And look up.
You are up. You are
yourself up.
Yeah,
for the day. Then you can trudge off to look for your caffeine fix.
What does ha mean in Tibetan?
That's what it means.
Oh, yes.
It's an onomatopoeic ha, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Hallelujah.
Oh, God, yes, I love it. I love it.
Expression of joy, like eureka, hallelujah.
Right.
Amen.
Amen.
Ha! With a big out breath. So you kind of have to raise some energy to push out the breath. Ha!
And then the next thing you have to do is a big inhale.
Breathe in.
Of the oxygen.
Yeah, so it's energizing and rejuvenating.
Exactly. You know, while you were talking about right livelihood, Surya, I was thinking about a film I recently saw called Urban Roots, which is all about farming in Detroit. You didn't know that Detroit was really farmland, did you?
No.
It's
No,
become...
you told me. I thought it was
told
the
you, yeah.
auto industry, but I guess
Yeah.
that's old thinking.
That's old thinking. That's dinosaur times,
Yes.
man. Yeah.
I'm a dinosaur. I'm kind of a psychedelic relic myself.
One of the... Oops!
Well, just look at my initials. Lama Surya Das.
Yeah, what the heck could it mean? Well, definitely psychedelic.
It's my initials. Yeah.
Oh, I think you and I have a lot in common.
Let's get serious.
Let's get serious about what?
I don't know. Ha!
Exactly. But this was a very beautiful quote. I may have mentioned it to you the other night. And that was this older black man turned to the camera and he said, "Have you ever heard of a bird that was unemployed?"
That is interesting.
It's completely unnatural. It was so beautiful. I never had that thought, and he nailed it, you know? And so everybody there is gathering together and finding a right livelihood in their hearts, and they're using their hands, and they're engaged, and it's beautiful.
Well, let me also say there are many ways to employ ourselves, and it doesn't mean just to work for pay. For example, perhaps protesting the economic situation or unemployment is a good vocation for some people. Some people are naturally activists and have a social conscience. So it's important that we find our true work in life, whether we're getting paid for it or not. We could say that if you do the right thing, you will always have the support you need. That might be a little idealistic, but it's not a bad principle to have at heart.
The idea of following your passion, or as Joseph Campbell says, follow your bliss.
Your bliss, your joy path, yes. But of course, sometimes we have to be practical. Also, we might be an actress, an actor, an artist, and have to be a waiter, a waitress also to keep that going until we get more successful, let's say.
You know, that famous old joke, two actors in New York City meet on the Upper West Side, and one says, "You're an actor?" And the other one says, "Yeah, me too." He said, "Oh yeah, what restaurant do you work at?"
Right. Exactly.
So, interesting, since we're talking about this, do you ever feel you've spent so much time in monastic life and being a deep meditator? Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? You were in France for a 3-year retreat. I wonder if, having emerged from all of that, you ever inside yourself feel a longing to do something other than be a spiritual teacher? Or, I believe this, you'll always be a spiritual teacher no matter what other activity you do, because it's you.
Mm-hmm. Well, people often ask me, because I'm sort of well known in our community, let's say, meditation and yoga and spiritual
You're very well known and loved.
In the West, thank you.
Yeah.
As somebody who did long retreats in Tibetan Buddhism, Lama training is 3-year, 3-month, 3-day retreat, cloistered, mostly silent, intensive meditation retreat with an intense schedule and all. So I did that twice. So, but I guess I'm a slow learner. I was going to say, once wasn't enough. A 2-time loser. So I sat out the 80s as one of my activist lawyer friends. I missed the entire Reagan administration. I sat out the Reagan administration.
Oh, you are brilliant.
The whole time in France, in our Tibetan monastery. Because we couldn't do that in Asia because of visas and politics. Tibet's under China and things like that.
Was this connected to the Kagyu tradition and Kalu?
Yes, Kalu Rinpoche and my Guru Khyentse Rinpoche, yes, connected. And so I came back. I was invited to start teaching retreats, leading retreats around 1989-90, and started the Dzogchen Foundation as a platform for my work here
up in Cambridge.
West, yes. So people always ask if I miss living in Asia with my gurus, if I miss being in retreat, nice peaceful retreat, nothing else to do, if I want to go back and do another 3-year retreat. And I don't know about missing, but I always say no. First, I'm not a big regretter. Second, I'm quite happy. I found what I'm looking for in life. Third, I live or try to live in the moment. And more fourth, like generally, I'm kind of just an optimist and I don't know. I feel like I don't want to go. I don't have to. I don't need to go away again to find it. I found it within and in you and around me. And today, integration is the name of the game. I'm not saying nobody should go and do that. I'm saying that I've already done that. So now, for me, integration is the name of the game.
Yes.
Perhaps for you, if you want to learn meditation or yoga or go deeper or go on a spiritual pilgrimage, it's good to take a sabbatical or go for a weekend, a week, a month, or longer somewhere.
Yes.
And then you'll have something to bring back and integrate into your daily life.
It's the archetypal idea, Surya, of a vision quest.
Yes, it is.
Whether it's a day, week, month, year, or decade.
You mentioned Joseph Campbell, and he's a great mentor and inspiration to most of us.
Yes.
And I do recommend people, if they're interested, to see his interviews by Bill Moyers.
Yeah.
I think it's called The Power of Myth. It's fantastic wisdom teachings from all the timeless traditions. Anyway, he called it The Hero's Journey. And I think, the hero, I'm not saying I'm a hero, I'm just saying it's a heroic quest to go beyond our ego and our selfish concerns and to go further and think about universal enlightenment, whether it's world peace or universal enlightenment or ushering in the kingdom of heaven as Jesus taught.
Yes.
And that's a hero's journey because you have to be fearless. You have to be courageous. It's very difficult to step up, to step out, to go against the materialistic grain of our times, to leave family.
Our conditioning, which is so deep.
And that's the hero's journey, not just going far.
No.
You can travel around the whole world in your heart and mind, body, and soul. You don't have to go far to make this journey because it's an inner journey.
Exactly.
But of course, as the Tibetan poet Saint Milarepa sang, to leave one's home is to accomplish half the journey.
Yes.
He said homeland, but I'm going to say home. Because it's not about country, but it means to get out of your rut, to change your life. You might have to do something outwardly, not just inwardly, although inwardly ultimately is most important.
Exactly.
So you may have to change your hairstyle or your clothes or, go somewhere else where your life is different. So I went through school uninterrupted and was an honor student and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sport jock, with letters and girlfriends and, surfing and baseball and all that and family in Long Island,
Yes.
Born in Brooklyn, the womb of all the Buddhas, as I like to say. So many Buddhist teachers and yoga teachers are Jewish.
Dennis Merzel, you know Dennis Merzel?
Of course, I am.
Oh my God.
We're all from the same mishpucha.
Yes, exactly.
Joseph Goldstein, Mark Epstein, Jack Corfield, Sharon Salzberg, all Jewish.
Are they all from Brooklyn?
No, more or less.
More or less.
It's just the Catskills. Sharon's from the Bronx.
God, yes.
Okay.
So it's
Ron Bass is from Brookline, not Brooklyn. Brookline, Massachusetts.
I just realized something.
Jack Corfield, Brookline.
This is the Jewish. I'm sorry. This is the Buddhist Borscht Belt.
It is,
that's
why we have a good sense of humor.
Totally.
We have to lighten up as well as enlighten up.
That's right.
Important.
That's right.
So myself, I had to leave after going through all that in college and all at the University of Buffalo, and then I met these things. Deep spirituality, meditation, and yoga, and all in college, and I wanted to trace the roots in the Himalayas in India. So instead of going to graduate school and studying it, I had read Campbell and Zimmer and Ram Dass and a lot of people, R.D. Lang and Herman Hesse and so on. I went to India. So I got out, I sort of took the architectural solution. I put a big space between me and my middle class upbringing. So I didn't get married and have kids in graduate school or become a professor or a doctor or a lawyer or a journalist or something. Also, I was more activist motivated from the 60s.
Yes.
So I wanted to become peace, not just fight for peace, not just write and think about, teach about peace, become peace. And I discovered Gandhi, and I lived in the Gandhi ashrams. So I went on a big journey, and I've been around the world several times. I lived in Asia in the 70s and 80s.
When did you begin that journey?
In 1971. I graduated from college in May of 71, and by the end of May, I flew to England, and I was hitchhiking across Europe and to Greece and Turkey and Afghanistan and Iran and into Pakistan, into India.
Yeah.
The summer of India, I was in my first 10-day intensive silent insight meditation course with Goenka G, the teacher of many of those insight teachers we were talking about before.
Was he Burmese?
He's Burmese Indian. He lived in India, and his parents were Burmese. He's a Buddhist teacher.
Now, was Neem Karoli Baba also one of your teachers?
He was my first guru, and he gave me my name Surya Das, and Ram Das, Krishna Das. So many of us Das brothers were
Bhagavan Das brought Richard Alpert.
Right, Bhagavan Das.
To there,
he was very seminal, helpful to all of us, and Ram Das.
Yes.
Dan Goldman, Jagannath Das, Larry Brilliant.
So
The
interesting.
Google
It's
Foundation
really,
and
it's like the
many
Long Island synagogue
nearby
moved to India.
Yes. Well, the Jews were wandering and looking and seeking, and also the Holocaust wiped out all the old masters and learning centers of Eastern Europe, so the Jews seeking perhaps elsewhere around the world for this ancient, timeless wisdom, knowledge. And I happen to find it in the Himalayas, but, one finds it within. So
Indeed.
The true Himalayas, the true Tibet is the high ground within us all.
Yes.
And I think that's the high ground we need to assume and to ascend.
Yes.
And we may make our pilgrimage to other holy lands, but we have to find and experience the true holy land, what Buddhists call the Pure Lands or the Buddha fields, what theists call heaven. We have to find it here and now. Because if we're not here now, we won't be there then, I can guarantee you. That's karma, that's conditioning. We're always waiting for the next thing. The next thing is the biggest carrot and makes us, and we act like donkeys, pursuing it and never being there. So we have to be here while getting there. I call being there while getting there, and here is in there. Being there while getting there, being here while getting there. Every step to heaven is heaven. So this is the thesis of my book about living in the holy now, Buddha Standard Time, like EST, BST.
Yes.
Buddha Standard Time, the big time, not just local time zone, big time, the timeless time of the now, the holy now.
One of the thoughts that I had in reading your book, Surya, is this notion of stepping outside the stream of time. That we can, because we're on automatic, biologically, psychobiologically, I should say, to lift ourselves out of it through our mind initially, but then just be in the biological, somatic reality of now.
Yes, it is a somatic reality. There's nowhere else we can be but in the now.
The body can only be in the now, right? So
right.
Our minds go everywhere, but our body
time is in our mind, so the mind also now. But the problem is that we're not really in sync with ourselves, so we feel like out of kilter.
Yeah.
So people asked me last night at my lecture downtown, how can I get into the now? I said, well, we're already in the now, but the thing is, how can we get in line with ourselves?
Yes.
Our true self, not our bent out of shape self. So we're always in the now. How can we be more congruent with how things really are, rather than living in the past or the future and memories and nostalgia or fantasies and plans, which are fine, but they take place in the now. It's nowness awareness that's thinking about the future.
So
it's nowness awareness that's remembering the past. Let's remember that we are in the now and recognize this nowness awareness, this subjectivity that's thinking about all these objective realities.
So what's the distinction then between being in the now and like non-verbally, not on a mental gerbil cage, but just present, and what's the difference between that and still maintaining that, but thinking about the future?
That's what I'm saying. Thinking is a nowness activity.
Okay.
When we know ourselves, then we understand who's doing what around here. Nowness awareness is thinking about the future. Like, let's talk about the future, Mitchell. What are you going to do tonight?
Yes.
And we're talking about that now. I mean, we're thinking about it now.
That's right. We're thinking about it now.
If you remember...
as long as it's conscious, is what, in a sense,
that's
you're
right,
saying.
conscious, awakening to what is. So then we can give ourselves fully to planning our children's college fund now.
Yes.
We don't have to resist doing it. Oh, we have to get this chore done as soon as possible so we can get back to being here now. Being here now doing what?
Right. Be wherever you are then.
Yes.
Now.
Right.
Yeah.
No, we have to. The true work, we touched on right livelihood before and true vocation. The true work is doing what needs to be done.
Yes.
So if what needs to be done is for us to make a plan, let's make a plan now and be fully doing it now. Wholeheartedness is so much of the enlightened, the free, the joyful life.
Yes.
Not being scattered, not being interconflicted, not being separated from ourselves. That's why we teach. We can learn how to be master rather than victim of ourselves, master of time, by doing what we're doing 100%, not being so split. I wish I was there, but now I'm here. So many people feel that their mate doesn't listen. The mate's thinking about other things. They'd rather be somewhere else. Let's be more consciously doing what we're doing and more choiceful about what we do.
What I hear you saying, Surya, is that where our attention is where we are.
That's where we are.
And
that's
we're either present
or absent-minded.
Yeah,
or
right.
somewhere in between.
Absent-minded.
It's mostly somewhere in between. So that's what we're talking about. nobody is going to defend too much absent-mindedness or mindlessness. So the Buddhist buzzword for this and the whole training we cultivate is mindfulness. It doesn't mean having a head full of thoughts necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Mindful means being aware of what is happening in the present moment, pre-judgment. I don't want to say without judgment, pre-judgment. Then we can decide if we have to judge. We need to judge. Red light means something, green light means something different. But first we need to perceive it as it is.
Yes.
Red and green. Otherwise, we have a perception problem which leads to wrong decisions. So similarly, we need to be aware of what's happening in the moment. That's mindfulness, presence of mind rather than absent-minded. So the definition of mindfulness is the opposite of mindlessness. That's my best definition. Being very present and alert presence of mind. And that brings our attention fully to where we are. We start to have more self-realization and have more gravitas, like be 100%, be 200%. As we are, like, I don't know, I've met some people I could call great people in my life, and, it comes to mind to say the Dalai Lama, but I've met other great people. Mm-hmm. Like, I think Jimmy Carter's a great man. Mm-hmm. I think Maya Angelou's a great woman. Yes. But just to go a little further out of the spiritual sphere, I've met some people who are just, they have, it's like they're 200% who they are. That's a great inspiration to me. And to all those around them. They're not all necessarily learned, they're not all necessarily talking about our kind of subject here. But they are really impactful and potent in the world as parents, as citizens, as mates, as brothers. They're one with who and what they are.
That's right.
And they make a huge difference.
There's a congruence in all the parts. They're unified. Yeah. It's an internal unified field.
Right, and that some people call it integrity, and not just like moral integrity, but like they are true to themselves.
Integrated in the true sense of the word.
They're true to themselves and what they are, Yeah,
exactly. From that point of view, since integration really is the name of the game these days in your life back in the United States, which has been for quite some time now, how do you see the role of your work related to the so-called outside world and all that is going on right now? For instance, you mentioned Wall Street, the Occupy Wall Street. There are so many things going on economically and politically and environmentally. How do you see the role of Buddhist practice related? Because, and just to preface, so often it's thought of as somewhat monastic, or at least removed from the secular world. That's the tradition.
Yes, that's the old world.
That's the old world.
Traditional.
So could you speak a little bit about
just
the
like
integration?
You were talking about Judaism, there's old world, like Orthodox Judaism.
Yes.
And then there's, conservative Judaism, and there's Reform Judaism, more popular in the world here. And there's even further, Reconstructionist and
That's
other.
Right.
And similarly with Christianity, I don't have to mention all developments from Catholic to Protestant.
Could you please outline them all?
No. That's not my department.
I'm playing with you.
But yes, I know. But I think the important thing is that when we say how does Buddhist practice relate to the outside world, I think first problem or illusion is that there is an outside-inside. Like, what do you mean by the outside world? I know what you're talking about. So, but I'm just saying,
please
just to nuance our thinking.
Yes.
For all of us who are talking together here and listening together. We always think so black and white, like outside and inside our body,
or breath,
or outside world as in the worldly world, the public world, but not the private world, or sacred and profane. Which polarity, which duality should we talk about?
Exactly.
Anyway,
take your pick.
Anyway, I live in the world. We're all in the world. I mean, the Dalai Lama is in the world. He's a political leader. He's a man. He puts on his shoes one at a time, like everybody else, on his feet. He probably goes to the bathroom and eats meals. I haven't seen him go to the bathroom. I've had meals with him. There's nobody outside of that. So
correct. He's
in the world. But what I've learned from people like him is we can be in the world but not of it. And this is an ancient spiritual saying. It's not just one Jesus that could do that, because he was, quote, Son of God. Buddhism believes everybody can be enlightened, awakened Buddha by pursuing such a path of awakening. The steps are laid out, the Eightfold Path, 8 steps to enlightenment, no problem. So if we could be in the world but not totally of it, just like we go to our jobs, but we're not totally our jobs, I hope, because we have a private life perhaps a family life or an inner life as well. It doesn't mean we're holding something back from our boss or our job, but everybody understands what's most important, right?
Mm-hmm.
If your child is sick or in danger, the biggest boss leaves work.
Yes.
The president or whoever leaves work.
That's right.
Everyone understands that.
Everyone has many roles,
right,
many have different identities. So one of the things I hear you really saying is that what is one's identification with what one does?
Yes, and how do we bring spirituality or values into every part of our life, not just outer and inner? Mm-hmm. So at work and at home, when we talk about politics, when we talk about family, when we talk about church, community, spiritual life, when we talk about the global environment and environmental degradation, what is outer and what is inner? What is sacred and what is profane? It's not really clear once you get deeper into it.
Correct.
Because we could understand that everything, let's talk in English in theistic Western terms, it's easier, that it's all God's creation, therefore it's all sacred.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk in Buddhist terms, which I understand that it's better, we say all beings are endowed with the luminous Buddha nature, and it's all like a Buddha field. It's all a sacred mandala to be cherished and protected, and we're the guardians and stewards of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that dog poop is dirty and flowers are clean or beautiful. Dog poop could be, rich, or more interestingly, like when you see a horse or somebody take a poop,
yes,
and it's a big, steaming, frothy thing, it's like, wow, it's like a piece of art. It's like, holy crap!
Quite literally.
Yes, right. So, it's just as amazing as seeing some, perhaps, old faithful geyser in Yellowstone Park, or a flower.
And interestingly, the creation is so magnificent that horse poop becomes the soil, the fertile ground for that beautiful flower to arise.
It's recycled, and so are we, and turned over, and so it's all in process, and we're all part of the whole. But we're all part of the whole, and there's something like beyond us and yet immanent in each of us, by whatever name you call it. I don't care, God and higher power. In Buddhism we call it Buddha nature. I translate that as Buddha-ness, the Buddha-ness within. And we all have that within us.
Yes.
Saint and sinner, we all have that potential, we all have that inner light. The Quaker founder George Fox called it the inner light. This is not just a Tibetan Buddhist term or a foreign term.
Yes.
And we all have that within us.
But what is I want to come around to this again, because we discussed this on the TV show a little bit, but I'd like you to expand on this. First of all, of course, a lot of what goes on in this book, Buddha Standard Time, is one form or another of becoming conscious in the moment, of course, and understanding time from a few different interesting points of view, linear and nonlinear. And there's a lot having to do with relaxation. It's almost like stress management in many ways. Stepping out of the ordinary stream, the ordinary habituation of mind, and creating something fresh and new in the moment. And that's completely beautiful. So I have two questions.
And practical. That's why I'm stressing that. Because everybody today is looking for happiness. There's very few people that are looking for nirvanic enlightenment. Although it's at heart, we all are longing for something beyond just happiness as opposed to sadness.
Yes.
More like bigger happiness.
That's right.
Like contentment, fulfillment,
ultimate
bliss, not just happy and sad.
That's right, as a continuum or as a polarity.
Taste something good and be happy, but for how long? How about
don't worry, be happy.
Yeah, how about heavenly bliss, like so-called eternal? So that's what we're talking about. But yes, it has a lot of stress-relieving benefits. Being in the now is the ultimate therapy. It frees you from past conditioning and future worries. Being in the now makes you perform better, as every performance coach and sports coach, music teacher will tell you. And there's a lot of benefits to it. But I want to repeat what I said because it's provocative, and I have not heard anybody else say it.
Yes.
Nowness or nowness awareness is the ultimate therapy.
I like that
you can take to the bank.
Yes, exactly.
Actually, the banks are not very reliable these days. That you can count on.
Heavenly bank.
Yes, that you can count on.
Yeah, I agree. Eckhart Tolle kind of suggests some of that.
Yes,
and
he's working that side of the thing.
Yeah, right. Yes, he is.
Ram Dass would be here now. This is ancient teaching.
Gurdjieff too, actually. That's where I first heard these notions.
This is timeless, evergreen, universal wisdom.
Yeah.
Well, what's the choice? Presence of mind or absent-minded?
That's right. Those are the two
who's going to
choices.
send absent
That's right, exactly.
So the more present and presence of mind we are, the better listener, the better parent, the better worker, the better person. Or just like going to church isn't going to help much if you're sitting in church thinking about counting your stock portfolio or how many levels you had, or whatever people are distractedly thinking about.
That's right.
Or that your furs are better than the other person's furs in the next pew.
Now you sound like a Long Island synagogue.
I've been there, done that. Then you're not in church. You're in the shopping channel. You're just sitting there in church, but you're not.
You just happen to be in the church or the synagogue, right? Exactly.
Yeah. And
the sacred space
you could be commuting. You could be commuting on the subway.
That's right.
And you could be in the sacred space.
You realize
within.
being.
You could be
totally.
You could be in prayer. You could be mindfully sitting there and mindfulness of breathing. You could be loving those you're with. You could be seeing the light in everyone and everything. That's what I want to recommend. That's an important thing that's in this book. That's not just stress release. What I call the diamond rule. We all know what the golden rule is. Treat others as you would be treated. And you find this in all religions.
Exactly.
I'm talking about Tibetan Buddhism has the diamond rule, which I'm coining, but it's a teaching. Mm-hmm. See the light, the diamond, the light, the Buddha, the diamond light, the most valuable, the divine, the diamond rule.
Yes.
See the light in everyone and everything.
I love it. I love it.
But you decide. This is not a law. You won't get arrested for not doing it, but you will suffer. If the more you do it, the less you'll suffer.
Now, how do you... Oh, does that mean we're running out of time? Okay, good, because in this timeless space, I don't know how that could happen. I don't even want to contemplate that.
We actually have all the time in the world. That's one of the theses here. It's up to us how we choose to use it or lose and abuse it. And time is the ultimate endangered natural resource, because time is life.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And life is time.
That is beautiful.
And we squander it at our peril. You know how people waste time, including us? And people waste time. And, that's part of life. But how much you waste is a big question. And we kill time is just at the risk of deadening ourselves.
What a phrase that is. I have been thinking about that forever. What does it mean to kill time?
Yeah. Well, to waste time.
Yes.
We're killing ourselves. It's like trying not to be where we are. Like, let's say I'm standing on the grocery line and feeling bored, or like, why is it taking so long? And I don't have my wits about me. If I had my wits about me, there's plenty to do and think about. I could be writing my poems and books. I could be praying or meditating or chanting mantra. I could just be smiling inwardly or outwardly at the people around me. Yep. I could be interested in what's going on. There's a lot going on there.
You could be sending vibes of love. You could be circulating chi inside your body.
You could be just standing, all the time, like Feldenkrais recommends, which is standing meditation. Just standing. It's just like meditation, just sitting.
It's also a qigong exercise.
So what do we do most of the time? We impatiently look around. We mentally try to push people, just like we're in traffic. Yes. We're mentally trying to push the cars.
We're honking horns vibrationally.
And we look at the, I'll call it the junk newspapers and magazines, I don't know, the National Enquirer cover, Jackie Kennedy gives birth to a three-headed gorilla with a father, LeBron James' father. It's like, how can you even run these headlines? Jackie's dead.
What are you talking about? What has that got to do with it?
I'm standing there waiting online, and that's how I'm spending my mental energy, because it's there. It's something to do. Yes. Because I've forgotten to remember what I want to do with my life and my time. Yes. I didn't want to make it a square, say I want to meditate, so I should stand there and meditate. I want to be more awake and present and not just trying to be somewhere else.
Well, that relates to another great idea that you put forth in here called wow.
Right.
Can you talk about wow?
Wishing others well.
Yeah.
It's a great practice. The Buddhist practice is called loving kindness and compassion.
Bodhisattvic.
Yes. Wow is a nice acronym that I've coined. I don't know why nobody did until now. Wishing others well. It's a great practice.
We were waiting for you to do it.
I guess. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow for me.
Yes. No, it's fabulous.
Wishing others well. You could be standing there on the grocery line or in traffic wishing others well.
It's a very deep practice.
Beginning with the person who's in front of you, or not person, the dog, the squirrel, all beings.
Right.
Any being. Also those who are not there. So if you really want to get it going in practice, we usually start with somebody we love so it can extend outward.
Yes.
You think of your beloved parent, grandparent, mate, sibling, whoever you love.
Yes.
Could be a spiritual mentor, whoever you love. Wishing them well. May they be happy. May they be healthy, have whatever they want and need, be free from harm and fear. These things are in my books.
Sure.
these affirmations, these well-wishings from the loving kindness and compassion meditation of Buddhism. You start with somebody you love until you really feel it warm in your heart, and then extend it out to another person you love, some concentric circle going wider, then to the ones you love but a little less, and then to just your friends who you like a lot, maybe you may not love, and then to your colleagues who you like, but maybe you don't like them a lot, until you get to like people you're more indifferent to, and eventually to your enemies, wishing them well. We don't wish the enemies to, conquer our country, but just wishing them well. May they have a soul healing, even though they have very, very different ideas than us.
Love thy enemy is a deep Christian notion.
So this is the practice of how to enact what Jesus taught. To love thine enemy.
So what we find is it shows up in every teaching.
It shows up in every. It's a universal teaching. This is a practical instruction. But if we practice it, it's an exercise. If we do it, we'll be more loving and detached, caring yet objective.
I have a question for you, Surya. Today, there happens to be a lot of activity down on Wall Street among the demonstrators. Today, there is a tremendous amount of activism across the world in any number of areas.
Not enough. I remember the 60s.
Yes. How can we act in a way that will take the brilliance of Buddhism, so we're not creating a polar reaction, and we're outside the stream of time in a tantric way, if you will, or a vajra way, being in the space but not of it, and most effective?
Well, there's a lot of little
are you with me?
Questions in that, yes. But I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
You heard it here first.
Very good.
I'm exaggerating just to I hope you
to make the show all the more important.
To be extra dogmatic, because like all other religious people, I know and I have the only way.
I am the way.
No, I didn't say my way is the only way. For me.
Yeah.
I'm not saying for anybody else.
Right.
That's important. So I believe in the power of one. I think we can make a difference. The law of karma teaches this, and I'm sure ethicists teach this. I don't really study philosophy that much in that way. Every word, thought, and deed has implications.
Body, speech, and mind.
Has ripples. So everything we do is connected to other things, like the butterfly effect. I'm not going to explain all this.
Exactly. No, my people know it.
We're all interconnected in some level or other, in different levels, and everything we do makes a difference. So, first of all, here's the one-liner to take home. We think globally and act locally, beginning with ourselves and each other.
Yeah.
You want to save the earth? Tend your own garden. I'm not saying don't try to save species. I'm not saying don't, like Wangari Maathai, who just died in Kenya, plant 1 million trees and empower all the women of Kenya to save the earth. Wonderful woman. I was on a panel with her. I was so impressed by her. And she has a PhD. She was a head of education department there. But she empowered all the women of Kenya that had nothing to do except raising babies to plant trees and save that country's environment. They planted millions of trees. But she said things like, when we were on this panel together at a church on 9/11 in Cambridge, Boston, in Harvard Square, she said, if you're not on the happy bus, get on enough of the bus. And she spoke English.
Yes, it was beautifully.
She didn't give big philosophy or some kind of African religion rigmarole like I do, Tibet, blah, blah. If you get on the happy bus. If you're not on the happy bus, change buses. Let's change buses. So think globally, but act locally, beginning with yourself and each other. Cultivate your 3 yards of physical and mental space and with each other, and then act accordingly, big or small, in the world. As Mother Teresa said, I was a big fan of hers. I met her in Calcutta once in the 70s at her ashram. She said, we can't all do great big things. We can do small things with great love. That makes them great. So everything we do with great love, or as we were talking about, great awareness, 100% wholehearted attention, and choiceful. Not fooling ourselves that we're doing it, we have to do it, somebody's making us do it. Take the master position rather than victim. Assume responsibility, since you've chosen to do what you're doing. Even if it's unconscious, it's not all conscious choices, but even our unconscious choices, we have to take responsibility. Nobody's taking our time. We give our time to things, this and that. That's why I say it's not time we lack today, but focus and priorities, awareness of that.
And that makes good use of the time.
How we spend our time.
It's time
and
energy.
Taking it from
That's
us.
another thing. Time and energy are virtually also one and the
That's
same.
Right, they are. Yes. So this book is about living in Buddhist standard time, in the now, the zone, being in touch with the eternal. You asked about this in your question.
Exactly.
So we can, by thinking globally, it's like thinking about eternity, but being in the moment. The moment is the portal to eternity. So think globally, but act locally. Think about eternity.
It's a fractal.
It's a hologram.
That's
Go
right.
through the center of this moment, you experience eternity, timelessness. Horizontal to changing times goes from left to right, past, present, and future, and the sacred fourth time, as we call it in Tibetan tradition, bisects vertically. The ascendant, deepest time, every moment, the holy now. It's always now, it's now. That's why, and this is the inscription in one of the chapters in my book here, Leonardo da Vinci, he's not exactly an Easterner, Buddhist, a New Ager. He was such a genius. He said, in the moment, there is no time. That's what we're talking about.
Yes.
The timeless moment.
Yes.
Just like, I don't know, perhaps when you're having orgasm, perhaps when you're having a baby, perhaps when you're really frightened, I don't know.
Well,
there's no time.
In a weird way,
there's no self-story.
When you're out of your mind.
Yes.
In an interesting thing.
Because the mind is what links it together and makes time, just like the mind makes our
sequences.
Yes. We create our identity in ourself by selfing, the mind remembering who we were and all our experiences.
Yes.
If you're in the moment, that's why I say the nowness awareness could be the ultimate therapy, Mitchell. I know you're a therapist.
Yes.
We're free from past conditioning in that moment.
Become free.
Then the next moment, it may, conditioning may reassert itself. Then we have to, again, cut through. In Tibetan Buddhism, we call this the practice of Tregchut, or cutting through. Then again, we have to cut through this habit pattern that's reasserting itself. And again, drop it. And again, cut through, the third moment. And if we keep cutting through, it's like splicing and dicing. It gets very fine. So first it seems like a wall you can't get through. Then it's like a screen it's hard to get through. You can see through, though. It's perforated. Eventually it becomes like a very gossamer, silky, transparent, gauzy curtain. You don't even have to get through because you can see through. It's not an obstacle.
That was beautifully put.
So that's part of the purification and enlightenment process of meditation. The things become transparent. They're there, but you can see through it, so you don't have to get rid of it.
I think sometimes, Surya, in the language of neurophysiology, not that I'm some kind of expert, I'm not, but I have enough of a sense of it and imagery of it. So as I'm listening to you speak, and I'm thinking also about the whole idea of samskaras and those aspects of mind that keeps us on a certain kind of wheel, a certain kind of habituated spin. Right. That being in the now, as you say, is the ultimate therapy, is a chance for us to get off that spin.
That's right.
And we literally quiet down, and neurophysiologically what's happening is the usual ionic flow and biochemical transmission that occurs between the neurons is stopped. It's quieted. It's neutralized. So they're going to stop acting the way they were just acting a moment before, and the dendritic connections, everything just kind of goes...
I love when you talk dirty like that, Mitchell.
I don't do this with everyone.
Words.
You follow what I mean.
Yes.
And it's this...
That's called peace.
That's right. Exactly.
It's happening.
It's
but you're not
yin. It's a yin state.
Vibrantly present. But,
by all means.
But there's now bumper cars going on in your head.
That's
and your
right. And it allows for another kind of magnitude of building the inner being.
Yes. Well, it's like being fully conscious.
Exactly.
And you don't have to rely all the time on doing, like, what should I do? You can rely on being, like, centered in what one is.
Yes.
And then you can do anything from that.
I guess this is a way of speaking soft porn. Is that what you're trying to say? Tibetan
Wisdom
style?
is soft corn.
Yes. Okay, enlightenment. What's the difference, Surya, between all that we're talking about of being in the now, stepping out of the stream of time, and this ultimate idea in Buddhist teaching of enlightenment? I'm not letting you off the hook.
Yeah, it's a big question, about enlightenment.
Let's make it local.
Yes, we will. So this is how local it is. So this book is about time. I want to apply Buddhism to a problem we all have, that everybody tells me they don't have enough time.
Yes.
Even though we have so many time-saving modern devices. People still say they don't have time. And we have longer lifespans. People say we don't have time. So it's kind of an illusion of a time famine, a time scarcity. But, so the inscription to the book on the first page, the inscription, is a quote from the Dzogchen, or the mystical teachings of Tibet, the non-dual teachings of Tibet, direct access, enlightenment, here and now teachings
Open
of
sky.
Tibet. Yeah, here's the quote. It's from the Manjusri Namasam Giti, just to throw back some dirty talk at you. The 1,000 names of the Buddha of wisdom, Manjusri. He says, one moment of total awareness is one moment of freedom and enlightenment. So that's the here and now. That's how long it takes. So many old world scriptures and gradualistic progressive Dharma understandings will tell you how many lifetimes it takes to get enlightened.
Wait, there's mirror. I'll never get there.
How many lifetimes of schlepping to enlightenment? How much?
That should be the name of a book we do. Schlepping to Enlightenment.
It's a great